They don't give a fuck about how big your house is, how big your cock is, how fast your car is. They don't care. They don't care about any of that. They just want you to be...
Today on the show, we have Keagan Bizzel, an ex-military sniper turned relationship and intimacy coach, helping men transform their health, purpose, and relationships so that they can live as embodied leaders and live life from a place of authenticity. Keagan shares his trials and tribulations, especially his transition back into society after his time spent in the military. We talk about all things in relationships and the one thing that our partners really want from us. We also talk about how you can learn to accept every part of yourself and work through them, even the parts you do not like. So without further ado, let's roll the intro. Welcome to The Better Project, the podcast helping you build mental fitness. My name is Nick Patar, and my mission is to crush the stigma surrounding mental health. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message which will help you unlock your inner truth to live a life of harmony within mind, body, and spirit. Thank you for spending some time with me today. Let's dive in. Keagan, my man, welcome to the podcast, bro. I'm super grateful to have you on. I love to start my podcast with gratitude. What are 3 things that you're grateful for today, man?
Oh, great question to kick it off. Let me just feel in for a second, do a little check-in. I'm grateful for going slow this morning. That was a game changer for me. Second thing I'm grateful for is the nature that surrounds me. It's everywhere, and it feels like it's in my bones, which is so freaking cool. And the third thing I'm grateful for is the opportunity to be here and to share and connect. Yeah.
Appreciate that, bro. I want to touch on your first point of slowing down. You know, we quickly mentioned it off air, but to you, how important is it when life gets in the way, you wake up and you have a shitty day or shitty start to your day or something happens, and instead of sweeping it under the rug or trying to work through it straight away, how important is it just to sit, just to feel, just to embrace all those feelings and emotions?
It's critical, absolutely critical. And for the first time in my life, I'm learning to basically do it, because previously it was just foreign to me, and my dad's such a go type of guy. My family is just incredibly on the go all the time. And so I didn't know what slowing down was, and I didn't understand the importance of it. But now I'm starting to understand that men are very up in the head, love thinking, concepts, ideas, whatever it is, or mentally pushing through things. And we don't spend a lot of time in this intuitive piece of technology called the body. And I'm slowly starting to learn, like, oh my God, this thing is untapped potential. And if I just sit in the body and be present and be in the moment, then the answers just arrive, or the feelings of sadness or anger or being tired or whatever it is, the feelings and emotions that arise just end up dissipating every time that I'm present and in my body. So, like, oh man, for me these days, massive game changer.
Yeah, it's something that I've recently incorporated into my life when shit does hit the fan. Great example today. You know, wasn't feeling best. Have a lot going on, but for me, I'm able to walk, 10 minutes into the bush, and just sit there, take my shoes off, get grounded, connect with nature, connect with myself. And every single time I leave and I come back home, I feel so much better. It's just like a weight lifted off your shoulders because you're able to take that time to just sit there and feel and to embrace everything that's happening within your life and to be able to accept it for what it is as well. Because so many times we do not accept it. We just go, okay, I'm going to try and fix it. But we don't accept it for what it is. And for me, that is something that has helped me immensely in overcoming obstacles that have arisen in my life.
Yeah, that's huge. I feel like so I work in a lot of polarities. I love to talk about masculine and feminine, and what I find is that in men that are quite masculine, they, or well, I'll say me, I have the tendency to just want to push through and just mentally keep going. So I've got an army background, and so that's what I was trained to do, is just push through fucking anything. Literally just push through anything, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much you're hurting, just think your way out of it. Mentally just push through. And it just it taught me not to listen to the body at all. And then I ended up getting really over just pushing through everything. And I was like, where's the peace and quiet? Where's the like where's the present in the body moments? And so that the lack of was what really hit me hard. I was like, oh fuck, I don't know how to be. And I actually the times that I remember this the most was when I was doing plant medicine journeys. I'd 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 have like 2.5 grams, 3.5 grams of mushrooms or something, and go for a walk, or I'd do a ceremony somewhere, and I'd be like, oh my god, this is what it's like to be in your body, because the thoughts and everything would almost disappear, and everything was hypersensitive. So I was like, wow, I can feel myself. And I'd have a conversation with Odell, and I'd say things like, I think that's why I enjoy it so much and why I get so much out of it, is because I can finally feel. And for me, that's been the massive door opener to doing it without the mushrooms. Is like, okay, how do I do this daily without just having a fun trip or whatever? So that's been huge for me. Big realization.
Do you think our vision holds us back from actually feeling? Now, just a bit of backstory, there's this program on Apple TV where society, like, they're all blind and they got to feel their way around, and they're all warriors. They have all these tribes and stuff. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
No,
It's fucking awesome, bro. Check it out.
sounds sick.
But yeah, so everyone's blind, but these certain people give birth to, people with vision, and they're
Mm,
seen as the bad people because they're different. They have vision, they
ah,
can see.
yeah,
But in the end, you know, with someone that has vision and someone that doesn't have vision, they get into a fight. The number one lesson was someone who has vision just goes all guns blazing, runs into it, whereas the person who was blind actually feels the area, feels where they are.
yeah.
So I guess coming back to my question, do you feel vision holds us back from actually feeling?
Oh, does it hold us back?
To a certain degree, I would say.
Yeah, I would say visual stimulus is well, it's yeah, that's a tricky one, because it's a gateway to a different stimulus, is the way I see it. Vision will invite a different stimulus, and not having vision would invite a different stimulus. So yeah, I mean, if I was to talk in like the depths of feeling, then I would probably say yes. Yes, it does limit us in some capacity. Even thinking about the word vision and how people have a vision for their life, it's very much a future based thing. And when you think about that, that's almost like projecting your thoughts, your reality, your behaviors, your habits into the future. And it kind of means, or it takes away from being in the present moment. So that's interesting that that's also there as well. That's a super interesting question.
Yeah, that just came to my mind because I remember watching it a few months back and it really got me intrigued. Like, imagine if society, or if we were, blind, like, would we be able to be more connected and feel a lot more than someone that has all that visual stimulus every single day?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Well, you could probably test it, right? You could you could get into an ice bath with your eyes open, and then you could do it with your eyes closed on another day, and almost try to measure if your body becomes more hypersensitive. And I guess they figured out that taking away some of the senses does make other areas more sensitive. So I would imagine that your ability to feel would be greater.
That is a good point because when I have cold showers, I can notice the difference when my eyes are open and my eyes are closed. I can stay in there a lot longer when my eyes are closed because I can just
Yeah.
concentrate and I can just feel. But if my eyes are open, I'm like, fuck this, I need to get out.
It's like 30 seconds, you're like, I'm done. Get out of
Yeah,
this.
I'm done, bro. I want to talk about your relationship with your father because you mentioned, he's a go, go, go kind of guy. And
Hmm.
growing up, you know, you're a loving kind of guy. You didn't get involved in fights, but in his eyes, correct me if I'm wrong, you were seen as kind of weak and you had to prove a point to him to prove that you were strong. How did that affect you, growing up?
Yeah, so dad loved me in his own way and supported me and the family through everything. You know, a big house, lots of land, put everyone through private schooling. So by no means am I saying that dad did a bad job. It's just the way that he grew up is what is how he helped his children grow up. And his dad was I believe quite emotionally unavailable coming out of World War II and things like that. Like it's just kind of how you had to be back then. And yeah, so dad was or still is quite emotionally unavailable, and I was quite soft as a kid, so I would always try to like hug dad or get affection from dad, or um, try as hard as I could to to get my dad's attention. And the only way that I really learnt how to get his attention to a really deep level was play really good football. And so it created this thing where I would constantly be thinking about me playing football for my dad and really playing well for my dad to impress my dad. And yeah, I ended up starting to think like I was on the football field and there'd be fights going on, and dad would be in the sideline yelling out like, "Get in there, Keegan! Like, get in there and fucking bash him, or help your mates out." And I was like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. I just want to kick the football. And then mum would be next to him like, "Shut up, Robin. Keep it down. You're embarrassing everyone." Um, he didn't do it that much, but it was there was a couple of notable times where I remember, and so that got me thinking like, oh, am I not tough enough? Do I need to be in fights to prove I'm a man? Do I need to have more anger and aggression in my life? Those sort of thoughts started coming up, and then when I got to 17, I had to decide what I was going to do after school. So the army became an option, the gap year, and I thought, fuck it, why not? I'll go in there, I'll toughen myself up, I'll have this job, I'll prove myself, and then that'll make me worthy, and I'll be someone that's worthy. So that's how that journey kind of started.
I can relate to that because for me growing up, you know, my dad would probably be very similar to yours, very old fashioned, very emotional, not available emotionally.
Mm,
I've never had the best relationship with him because, every time I've tried to open up, I'm a big softie. I love hugs, all that stuff like yourself. But it's always turned into anger. And
mm.
for me, that has made me pull back. Or when I am in that situation where I'm trying to have a conversation, I freeze up
As in,
because I
he
feel
gets
so
angry.
conflicted. Yeah, he gets angry.
Yeah, yeah,
But for me, that makes me go into my shell and bottle it
yeah.
all up.
Same, man. That's exactly what my dad
And
does.
yeah, I've never had the best relationship. And just like you know, I did things to try and make him proud. I
Mm,
did taekwondo when I was young because that's what he grew up, in fighting background. So I was like, oh,
mm,
I'm going to do this to try and make him proud of me. Then, you know, working in the family business to try and make him proud, to try and
mm,
take it over. But there gets a point where it starts to lead to resent
mm,
because you're trying to make someone else proud of you instead of making yourself happy and making
mm.
yourself fulfilled. How does someone in that situation go about, yes, wanting to have that relationship and, you know, wanting their father to be proud of them, but also putting yourself first.
Mm,
And if the relationship's there, the relationship's there, because at the end of the day, you can try as hard as you want, but if they're not stepping up to the party or stepping up to the plate, you're just going to be left hurt, left upset, and then
mm,
left being resentful towards that person.
yeah. So I think probably the first really important thing to say is that our situations are unique in their own way, and that we we have fathers that no one else has. Like your dad's completely different to my dad, and my relationship with my dad's completely different to your dad. Whether it's similar in some way or not, but I believe awareness is the first thing. Just being really aware that that's going on, and then when you start to be aware of that, what I like to talk to my clients about and work through myself is that if there's a part of me that is a little bit like angry or resentful or unhappy about the situation and the relationship with my dad, just identifying where that comes from and what part of me is trying, or what part of me is angry. Is it like a 7-year-old me that wanted my dad's attention, or is it like a 15-year-old me? Or and I try to build a bit of a story around, like, okay, so which part of Keagan's actually upset with his father around this? And then I like to understand that it's not my dad's fault that he's like that. He doesn't even know. That's all he knows, just that. And so I just embrace him and love him as much as possible, and for the amazing work and the amazing life that he's given to his kids and the amazing life that he's lived, and just understanding that I can't change him. And probably the harder that I try to change him, the more shit and the more walls that I'm just going to keep running up into. And so embracing him open-heartedly in love is what I like to do. And when I identify different parts of myself, this is getting pretty deep with the parts work that I do, which is around internal family systems. But the way I see it is we've got a deeper knowing self that we can access once we address all these different parts of us: the protector parts, the wounded parts, the inner child parts, the damaged self parts, the fighting warrior parts, all these different parts that are within us that we like to that I like to lead my life from, are just kind of like masks that I put on at different times. And what I like to do is when I step into self energy, which I'm still learning a lot about. And a good friend of mine, Jack May, who was an original mentor of mine and a very good friend, he talks a lot about this, and he's a bit of a master on it. The self-led energy is a place that you can lead from with like compassion, love, courage, communication, all these really positive things. It's inherently what we are as human beings when we're in ourself, in our center. And so I like to almost have a third person view on my own life, recognize and have the awareness that these different parts might be playing out. If dad says something and I react and I get triggered, then just knowing that that's just a part of me. That's not my whole self. That's not all of me. It's just a part of me reacting to something that he said, because that's how I learned how to be safe. And so when I understand that, I can step back, I can create a bit of distance from the different selves I try to jump in the way and protect me. And I get to put on a mask that my dad would really love me to wear. Almost like a bit of an actor. I get to wear the mask that he would really love for me to play, because I'm aware enough to understand that that's not me, that's just a part of me. And then when I leave there, I can step into something else. Other people have a different view where they say, "Nah, fuck it, like I'm just gonna be me." Which, when they say that, all I think of is, okay, like, which part of you is talking? Which part of you is saying, "I just want to be me"? Is it this spiteful kind of like warrior energy that you're saying, "I just want to be me and live my life how the fuck I want, and don't tell me what to do"? Because that was a different person. Like, you were a different person yesterday from this conversation. So who's talking now? And so it can get a little bit tricky sometimes, but Yeah, some people just believe in that side of things. Like, no, I'm just going to be myself, or yeah, act out in that way, and that's fine. That's great, but I haven't found that has worked for me because it usually brings up a lot of tension at home and causes a lot more problems for me personally because I will start to talk about things that my family isn't necessarily interested in. I'll start to do things that they don't really resonate with, apart from my mum. So yeah, it's been a very interesting dynamic, me connecting with my family back home because I've changed so much over the years. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a kind of long-winded answer.
I wanted to ask, like, is it healthy to put on that mask? Say you are conflicted with someone, but you do put on that mask for them, so to turn up as that version of you for them. Is that
Hmm.
healthy though, or because you're not in some ways being your true self?
Yeah, look, it depends on what your intention is. It really depends on what your intention is, and it depends on how aware you are that you're wearing the mask. Because if you know that you're wearing the mask, then you know and you're aware of everything you're saying, and you're aware that you can take back control whenever you want. And so I've almost used it as a bit of a training guide. I used to love doing acting and doing drama at school, and that requires you to do what they call voice dialogue, which is swapping in and out of these different selves. And so actors are really good at doing this. And yes, in some ways it can be very, very draining because you're not being uh, what I would say is like authentically you, which is closer to the real self. So yeah, it really depends. If sometimes I will, sometimes I'll go home and I'll just be the authentic, truest version that I know of myself, which is beautiful. And sometimes, like at Christmas time, if I go there and be that person, I get fucking smashed. I get absolutely drilled, and it's it's incredibly difficult for me to maintain my energy and my state. Whereas sometimes I'll actually enjoy just stepping into like 17-year-old Keagan and having a joke and making a sarcastic comment and laughing with my brother. And sometimes it feels really, really nice. But it's important for me to understand that I've stepped into that. And when I leave the home, I do my own work to almost like clear the energy of the space because I'm like, whoa, that was full on. That was a trip back in time. So yeah, intention, all around intention. What's your intention?
Yeah, and very dependent on the person if they're able to, have self control and not have so many masks that they get actually lost.
Yeah, that's a trippy thing, man. And a lot of the time, I don't know that I'm like wearing a mask. Even with all the awareness work that I've done, I just forget. I just think it's me.
I really want to dive into your time in the military. What was it like, and what are some of the lessons that transfer over into the work that you do now?
Yeah. So I joined when I was 17. I was in there for 6.5 years. Wasn't a particularly good soldier to start off with. I I basically, yeah, I don't know what it was, but I guess I was just really young and a bit naive to the whole fact of everything. The only thing that I had going for me was my fitness, and so I relied on that to get a bit of praise, I guess. And the whole time I was just trying to prove myself. And throughout the early days, like the first year or year and a half, I fucked up massively. I was the worst soldier in in my battalion, probably, or seen as the worst soldier, and that was really hard to get away from. And I remember being like incredibly depressed one day in my room, and I was fixing up my pockets and stuff because I was so anxious about going to work. And it took me like 20 minutes. I'd go to walk out the door and be like, oh, is my hat badge on properly? Oh, is my zips done up? Yep, yeah, okay, cool. Go to walk out. Oh, shit, hat badge. Yep. Got my phone. Zip, zip, yep, zip, zip, zip. Notepad. Yep, cool. What are we doing today? Oh, that's right. I got to get that thing. Spend like 20, 30 minutes doing that. Really, really like intense situations. And it got to the point where I was almost seen like as like the laughing stock of the battalion. and I just got fucking sick of it. I was like, how did I get here? Like, I didn't ask for any of this. I mean, I asked to join the army, but I didn't ask to get absolutely beasted and torn to shreds. So I just made a conscious decision to take a really heavy weapon in the section, and that was going to be my service to the section and the platoon, was carry this really heavy machine gun and rely on my fitness to show up and provide for the platoon. And so that's what I did, and it worked out really well. I ended up getting seen as someone that was putting in more effort, and I got chosen to go on reconnaissance courses from then. And then I did a basic sniper course after that, and then I did a sniper team leader course following that. And then when I'd qualified my sniper team leader course, I had four qualifications, four like high level qualifications to my name, and I was one of the youngest and probably the highest what do you call it, highest qualified soldier within the battalion. So I went from this terrible soldier to this, highly qualified, great soldier. And then I ended up getting quite jaded. I was getting pretty injured. My back and knees were pretty rooted. So I decided to transition out. And the transition out was a massive ego death for me. I really, really struggled because that was who I was, and that was who I was seen as. And I spent a lot of time, picking myself back up and understanding that I'm just a human like everyone else, and I struggle with stuff like everyone else, and finding my way. And the lessons that I took from the army, probably most of them have a lot to do with being able to push through. And I love that part of me, but I also recognize that it's incredibly draining, and I can get myself, I can get myself pretty burnt out when I just push and push and push and push and push. And so there's a lot of things around like resilience for me, a lot of things around leadership. I'm comfortable talking in front of crowds. I'm comfortable directing people. I'm comfortable being the guy up the front that's making all the decisions. A lot of things around routine and planning is another massive one for me. I spend maybe like 20, 30 minutes in the morning journaling and making sure I get really clear on what I'm doing. And I really need a vision for the future, and a mission for me to get any work done. So that's probably the biggest things that I got out of the army. Everything else, yeah, I wouldn't say there's much else that really serves you in there apart from all those things. It's quite difficult to be open and deeply authentic in the army, and yeah, you get torn down pretty easily. So a lot of those parts were very hidden and tucked away for me. So coming out of the army, it was all about pulling down all the walls for me, and breaking through a lot of emotional resistance. Like having conversations with my partner, I'd put up these massive emotional walls. I wouldn't let anyone in, even though I was this like soft, huggy kind of guy. I I would have probably been seen as someone that is quite friendly and open and that sort of thing. But Odell, my partner, knew that there was a lot more, and there was a lot deeper things to me. And so we went on a massive process of pulling down all those emotional walls, and have nearly broken up a few times because there was such disconnect there. And even to this day, I get into a mode where it's just like work, and I'll just go. Um, that doesn't last very long anymore. I think the older I'm getting, I'm going slower, which is great. I'm loving it. I'm fully embracing it. Um, but yeah,
You mentioned resilience, and it's a big part of the military. What does resilience mean to you?
yeah. So resilience to me means the ability to go through something really difficult, and then understand that on the other side that you are now, um, you are now conditioned to be able to do something similar again, and to be able to understand your um, your durability in any situation. So yeah, to basically, sometimes I just say to do really hard shit, but I kind of don't resonate with that as much anymore. Um, but that's how I saw it for a long time. Was like resilience was just being able to do really hard stuff all the time, as if it was nothing. And resilience, I don't believe resilience gets built like during the event. It's always after. It's always the reflection piece. It's like, oh my God, I did that. How the fuck did I do that? And then next time you go to do an event, or you go to do um, a piece of content or whatever it is that's similar to that, then it's like a reference point. It's like, oh, if I can do that, then I can do this. Oh, cool, easy, done. So there's been a lot of those moments for me. A lot of the physical stuff has been that's my benchmark of resilience. It's interesting. I find it interesting for me though, because I'm not necessarily resilient in other areas of my life because they haven't been conditioned. It's like the whole thing around discipline. Oh yeah, I'm disciplined in this. It's like, yeah, okay, because you've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. What about not eating junk food? How disciplined are you with that? Or what about going to bed on time? Oh no, that's way too hard. Well, where's your discipline now?
Exactly. It's a skill set that needs to be trained. Just like we go to the gym, we get 1% better every single time. It's exactly the same with resilience, and it's also how quickly you can bounce back
Hmm.
from adversity.
Hmm.
Um, and I love the point that you mentioned. You build it after the situation happens. So, like for example, I did a 25-kilometer race the other week, 1,000+ meters elevation. It was fucking gnarly, bro. And at the time, I was like, how the fuck am I going to get through this? I
Yeah.
was dying out of my ass. But once I've crossed the finish line and had some time to reflect, I was like, holy shit. Like, I just did that.
Yeah.
Imagine what else can I do?
Yep.
Like, the body is amazing, but it's the mindset that gets you through all those things.
Hmm.
And once you develop that, once you train that, bro, you're fucking unstoppable.
Yeah. It got to a point for me where I was causing more damage than good because I would just keep pushing, and it got to a point where I had to step back, and I'm like, what? Why the fuck am I? What am I doing? What's it all for? And that's when I started doing the work around my dad and my worthiness. It was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I love my warrior so much because it's how I prove to myself that I'm worthy, because I can do stuff that no one else can do. Oh, okay. What if I just solve the worthiness thing? Oh, shit. I don't have to do any of that hard stuff because I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. Cool. What do I really want to do? Build this business. Oh, okay. I'll put my time and energy into that. And so it was a massive shift for me because I feel that, like me, a lot of men can get stuck into uh, pleasing, pleasing things from their past, or um, trying to heal unconscious wounds from their past with their actions. Um, it's like it's like David Goggins, right? He's got a massive fight part. Like that's all he knows is just fight, just fucking fight all the time. And I look at him and I'm like, man, I can't think of anything worse. I get it. I get it. Comfort, overrated. I totally get it. But I really desire to, have a deep, intimate, super sexy relationship with my partner. And I desire to spend time in nature, with a campfire and whatever else. And I desire to have dinner dates with friends and have really awesome conversations and things like that, where his mentality is, yeah, he's unique. He's a very unique person.
Yeah, he's a rare specimen. He's a crazy motherfucker, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And when I first started following him, I was like, oh, this guy is awesome. But as you said, like to a degree, there's no real balance.
Mm,
Like, yes, push yourself out of your comfort zone. But there gets to a point like, are you actually enjoying life if you're smashing yourself every single day doing that shit?
yeah. Yeah.
Are you truly happy? Are you truly fulfilled?
Mm, yeah. And I would love to know what's his edge. Like what's the thing that's actually hard for him? Because running a 100-kilometer race, it's not hard for him. I mean, yeah, physically it might be a little bit hard. He might get a little bit of stimulus, mental stimulus from pushing through barriers, but what's his edge? What's hard for him? I know that he hates swimming in the ocean with sharks, which um,
Most people
you
do.
know, yeah, yeah, fuck yeah. Well, not swimming with sharks, but swimming in the ocean, possibly sharks come. That's a fear of mine. And yeah, but I feel like it all goes back to because there was a thing he was on the Huberman Lab podcast, I think, or he was on someone else's podcast, and Andrew Huberman was talking about how he had David Goggins come into his lab and to do some tests around serotonin and other body chemicals, and basically found out that Goggins hates sharks, and but he was the first one to put his hand up and say, "Yep, I'll do the thing first. I'll do this experiment, Andrew. I'll do your thing first. Let's go. Let's get it over and done with." And his way of reacting to um, danger or fear is quite proactive. But it's almost like the deeper question is, what else is behind that? Like, yes, he's learnt to survive this way, but how necessary is that all the time? Is he just putting himself into constant danger and pain because he feels like he needs to prove to himself that he's not a fat dude anymore? Like, is that what he's trying to do? Just perpetuating that cycle. So yeah, I find the things deeper than the surface, like what we see, very very interesting. Um, and I'd love to have a. I mean, it'd probably be pretty hard to get through to Goggins, but having a conversation with him would be really interesting because you don't necessarily get to see how aware he is. He might be like the most woke dude that anyone's ever heard of, and he just shows up like that on Instagram. But I don't think that's the case.
Exactly. We have this perception of someone through social media, but we don't truly know them. But it's really
Mm,
interesting. Like I'm very curious myself into getting to the root of who someone is or why they act certain ways because it's really cool to identify why, say, someone doesn't have self worth because it may be
mm,
triggered from when they were a child. Like
mhm,
there's so many elements that explain how someone acts and how they live
mm.
their life, and it's so interesting, bro. So I'm very intrigued about it myself. I wanted to ask, how was your integration back into society after leaving the military? You mentioned with your relationship with your partner Adele, it was tough. She was trying to open you up and get you to express who you truly are, but at some stages you were still very shut off to the world.
Mhm.
So what was that integration process like, and is it still a process now? Are you still working through it now?
Yeah, constantly working through it. I am. Yeah, it was hard, man. I went straight out of the army to being a security guard at the port of Brisbane, marking the time that trucks would come in and out in a box for 12 hours straight overnight. So I was fucked. It was the most toxic environment ever, and I was sitting there going, "Why did I leave? Oh my god, it's so stupid." At the same time, I was also doing network marketing, so that was just I was getting punched in the guts constantly by cold calling people and trying to organize like sales presentations and stuff. And then just after that, my mum she owns a swimming pool in where we live, and I was interested in nutrition and obviously fitness from the military. And she said, "Oh, you should come do this new thing in the pool. It's called aquapole." I'm like, "Aqua what?" what's this? And she's like, oh, it's you put like poles in the water and you like dance around and kick and punch. And I'm like, so you mean like pole dancing in the water? And she's like, yeah, it's kind of like that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm pretty desperate right now, so yeah, let's do it. So she ordered these poles. I did a marketing campaign. Ended up like booking out these classes, and it would have been like 4 or 5 months after I got out of the army. I was this pole fitness instructor outside of the pool, like kicking and like teaching these ladies, these 60 and 70-year-old ladies, how to stay fit in the water and jump around these poles and stuff. It was fucking hilarious, man. Like the amount of the amount of ego death I went through was huge. I had a mate of mine that came over maybe a year after I'd got out, and he'd just gone to do his SAS selection in Perth, and he passed, and then he'd come over to my house, and he was in a sniper cell with me, and he's like, I got him to do one of his classes, and he's like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, man, this is me now. I'm the pole fitness instructor. Getting my shirt off for these old ladies. Yeah, bro, let's go. He's like, man, you've changed. I'm like, oh yeah, you wait. Give me another 5 years. I'll be off. I'll be off chops. So massive ego death for me. Really, really difficult. Um, I'm trying to think of some of the things that I really struggled with. The emotional side of things, opening up, was definitely really difficult. Um, food,
Any PTSD? Like, did you tour at all or no?
no. And
Okay.
there's a part of me that still deeply wishes that I had gone. Although a lot of the stories that I have heard is just guys go over there and they sit on barracks and play their PlayStation and um, do guard duty for 6 to 9 months, and it's not really like getting to do their job. And so that's highly likely what I would have done even as a sniper team leader if I went over there. So, but like I still would have liked the experience. Still would have really liked the experience. But there's also a part of me that is grateful that I didn't go. But it's not as strong as the other part. I went to Malaysia for 6 months, which was a great experience. Um, yeah, trying to think of what I really struggled with on the way out. I think I've pretty much covered the emotional side of things. Just just constantly hustling. Food. That's right. Food has been a massive one for me. It's probably not really talked about in the army, and it might not be the same situation for everyone, but we get given sometimes like 5 or 10 minutes to get into the mess, to get our food, and then to eat, and then to leave. And so it's a lot of you living in your sympathetic nervous system, all jacked up, all wired up, and then scoffing down food, and then running off to do some PT or something. So my relationship with food got quite bad, and I started drinking coffee at 17 to stay awake through these death by PowerPoint presentations that they'd put on. So I got heavily addicted to stimulants and heavily addicted to comfort eating, and I still struggle with it today. It's been my biggest battle is food, and you probably wouldn't think it, but yeah, I just snack constantly. I'm getting much better, getting a lot more aware, and I'm no longer on stimulants, so I've gone completely off stimulants. And the work around the parts that I've been talking around um, has been really important for me because I recognized that there was a part of me that felt safe every time I ate or every time I drank, and a part of me that was really addicted to the stimulants because it was reinforcing to me that um, I was going faster and I was doing more and I was providing, and so I basically had to like talk to that part of me and reconcile that part of me and let it know that I'm not in the army anymore and I don't need to go 100 miles an hour every single day to keep me safe, and I can do other things to have a break rather than eating food and being in a coma. And so once I had a conversation with that part of myself, I was like, oh wow, that feels good. Yeah, I don't feel like I need to eat as much, or and I quit stimulants. which is a massive breakthrough.
That's interesting because I've never been a big stimulant guy myself. I don't drink coffee or any of that. But for me, when I want to feel safe or that comfort thing, I'm a big affectionate person. I want love from
Mm,
someone. I want
mm,
cuddles, kisses. Whereas my partner is like you, food, big food person.
yeah.
Well, ice cream, shit like that. It's interesting to see how everyone's different and
Mm,
what makes them feel safe is different as well.
hmm Where where did you do you have an idea of like where you got that real deep desire for connection and physical touch from?
Well, that's a good question.
Because you used the word need, which is quite
I think
interesting.
to I think to a certain degree, lacking it from a young age, particularly from my father.
Mm,
Now I got it from my mum, and I have a really strong connection with my mum. But as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, never had a strong connection with my father, and I've always, in a way, desired that.
mm,
So when times do get tough, it's like I want that affection to feel good. Or
mm.
when he like say he doesn't reject me, but like we don't have that connection, something we have an argument or something like that, I go away. I'm like, okay, I want to go get this affection from somewhere else.
Yeah. So your dad, is there a large part of you that um, resists the way he is, or people, or you resist people like him? Like, do you find it to
Yeah,
be? Do
hundred
you find
percent.
it? You find it really hard to almost be like him?
Yeah, I see how he is, and I'm like, I don't want to be. I want to be the total opposite to him. I want to be nothing like him. And then if I see people that resemble him, I just get this feeling, and I'm like, stay clear. I don't want to be around you.
Yeah. So something that you might find really interesting is because of your experience as a child, what it sounds like is that you've disowned that part of you because um, your dad wasn't able to show you affection when you were younger, and wasn't able to give you what you needed, and so now you've almost disowned that part of yourself, which means that stepping into the things that your dad's really good at might be a bit of a struggle with you. So, for instance, my dad is incredibly good at like emotionally blocking off and just doing work, like doing heaps of work and just providing like a motherfucker. Like, he is the providing king, and and for some people, like, they might be really resistant to that, and they might really struggle with that part of them because they don't want to be that type of person. They want to almost do the opposite. But what I find has been really beautiful is understanding that for some people that's a disowned part of them. They've almost like, nah, fuck that, I don't want that, that, because when I was younger that was terrible, and I don't want to deal with that again, and I just want my dad's love, kind of thing. Which means that they really struggle stepping into that part of themselves. So yeah, it was just beautiful to hear you say that and talk about that. Might be some leveling up
That is an
there.
interesting point you bring up about, I guess, disowning that part of me.
Because you've learnt to push that part of you away so that you can stay connected and feel safe and be loving with people. And so you've said, like, fuck that, I don't want that, because
Mm,
that doesn't feel nourishing to me. That's not what I really crave. But also, I believe in times in our life we really do need to step into that other part of us. Like, we need to step into the role that, or some of the things that your dad's really good at, or my dad's really good at. Um, so yeah, building that awareness for me has always been really big.
yeah, yeah, you're bringing out some shit now because like you are right. Like we always look at like the negative side of things instead of the
Hmm.
things that they're actually good at and what we can learn from them. But
Hmm.
because we are in a way shut off or we've disowned um, that part of us or part of them, we're just like we don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we're totally capable of being them and stepping into their energy, but we've just disowned it. So a lot of the work that I do is helping men see these disowned parts of them, and helping reconnect themselves to that disowned part, because through that is massive transformation, massive self-acceptance. Because when you think about it, if I disown a part of me, it's me not accepting a part of myself. And so I'm basically hating on myself. So if I was to act like my dad, I'd be like, oh, fuck, why am I like my dad? So stupid. I don't want to be like that. But it's just a natural, normal part of me. So it's, yeah, it's bizarre, man.
Yeah. Every time I guess, lashed out in anger, straight away, I'm like, why the fuck do you do that? Like, because that reminds me of my dad. I'm like,
Exactly.
fuck, like, you're being like your dad now. You're a bad person. Or that's how
Yep.
I feel in the moment. So yeah, fuck, you're bringing up some interesting points, bro.
Yeah, man. And that's typically what a lot of men have experienced these days is uh, because of the way that cycles happen within the world. A lot of men, a lot of people's dads these days are like the baby boomers, and exactly like we've been talking about, they've been taught to shut off emotionally, and so these days we have a whole shitload of really soft, cuddly men that don't feel safe or don't feel accepted to express their own anger. And so a lot of the stuff that I take men through is like helping them rage in a healthy way, because it's in all of us and we can access that rage. And by suppressing or disowning that part of us, it can cause some really, really um, deep wounds and a lot of anger and self hate within us by not addressing it and not actually expressing it. So yeah, I've taken a few guys locally where I am to do like rage ceremonies and giving them the space to just fucking let it out, full rage. And after it, they're like, "Wow, I feel really good." It's like they're stepping into their full power because they disowned it for so long, and now they're finally accessing an untapped energy source.
That is powerful. I don't remember the last time, like, I raged or yelled or anything. I remember the
Bro,
last time I cried, but I
yeah,
don't remember the last time I raged.
yep. Pillow rage is a great way to start tonight if you feel it, or tomorrow morning. Just get your pillow and try to elicit and feel into your body, and you can you can visualize yourself and take yourself somewhere to like a battlefield or whatever it is, and just like do a primal rage into the pillow.
All right, I'll give it a go and I'll let you know.
You. Uh,
Dude, how did you go from military to fucking aqua pole teacher to now relationship coach?
yeah, so I guess I went from that pole dancing teacher, whatever you want to call it, to running a gym. And then the gym closed down at the start of this year from a flood and a whole bunch of other shit, and COVID wasn't that great for it. And throughout that entire time, even including my military background and history and whatnot, I've got friends with PTSD, and I had my own emotional problems and my own relationship struggles within just within my relationship. So all these things that I am coaching now, which is all around health. So what I do is I help men transform their health, their purpose, and their relationships, so they can live as embodied leaders. They can really embody their message and live from a place of authenticity, and step up and take the action and live the life that they desire to live. And so everything that I teach, I have spent a lot of time in and working through in my own life. And that's given me a really deep desire and motivation to want to coach other men in it, because I believe that it's so fucking important for the health of this planet. So, yeah, like the relationship stuff all came from relationship breakdowns, being really disconnected, us not treating each other very nice in the relationship. The health side of things came from injury, not being able to at one stage not being able to really walk that great because my knees and my back were incredibly sore from the army and had these ongoing problems. And then the purpose stuff and the vision stuff is all from coming out of the army, being lost, just picking something even though I didn't really want to do it, doing it, and then realizing, well, fuck, that was stupid, because I was gunning for money instead of like what I actually deeply desired in my life. And I've felt the pain and the stress of not having a purpose and not being on purpose. So for me, it's like, it's just so clear. Everything's so clear and everything makes so much sense to me. The tricky part for me has been communicating that to people and attracting men that are ready to step up and change their life. And I'm kind of going through this process right now where I'm even still just honing in on exactly what I do. But for now, it's all around health, purpose, and relationships. Yeah. So giving men vitality, showing them how to have great sex, and how to be on purpose and live their life they desire.
Is there a common theme or factor that you see that results in poor relationships or relationship breakup?
Yeah. Um, so many, but I would just say like a commitment to connection and communication. I'm seeing a lot of relationships now. They they're in this awkward place where they've got all these things that they either want to communicate to their partner about or talk to their partner about, but they feel like their partner isn't going to receive it well. So no one ends up talking about anything. And then there's this massive rift and disconnect in the relationship. And, um, no one's speaking their desires. No one's spending intimate time together without technology or anything like that. A lot of people struggle being open to receive. And I guess men really struggle with holding space for women for them to open up and just hold them. So yeah, a few things, but a lot of it comes around for me a commitment to connection. And how I got to that was just the way that we were living our life. We found that we would run into certain obstacles and they would always be resolved if we committed. Just commit to connecting. That's all we have to do. Like no matter how triggered we are by each other, just commit to like 5 minutes of connection. And then as soon as we did that, it was like, oh, okay, I feel safe to share what's on my mind now. And, have a beautiful conversation and the thing would be resolved.
I seen this beautiful post that you put up yourself with you and Odell just embracing, sitting on your deck or whatever, just cuddling, having fun, kissing, all that stuff. And you wrote, "Be with your woman deeply. They want you to be present." Man,
Mm,
that was amazing to see, and it's so true. Like they want you to be present. They want you to be there. And as we said, that men were always so stuck in our head.
mm-hmm,
What's our purpose? What's our mission? Like
mm-hmm,
work, work, work. Take the time just to be with your woman,
mm-hmm.
embrace, connect, because it makes your relationship 10 times better.
100%, man. It's been massive for me. It's all they want is just your presence. They don't give a fuck about how big your house is, how big your cock is, how fast your car is. They don't care. They don't care about any of that. They just want you to be 100% present and to be able to listen deeply, look at them deeply, and love them deeply.
Mm. Keegan, I want to ask you, what is it for you that makes you feel alive? Because I've seen another post of yours where it mentioned all men crave the feeling of being alive. So, what does it mean to you to be alive?
Mm. Being alive for me means, well, we've just spoken about it, being really present. And I believe that's what is at the core of uh, of what men desire is to be incredibly present. And through that being present, we achieve freedom. And so there's a few ways that we can do that. I believe is in our purpose. We can be really present in our purpose and become freer by going through the process of whatever we're doing. Or we can be in community and be incredibly present within community and experience a freedom through connection. Or we can sit on the mountaintop and meditate for hours or days or months at a time and be in an incredible state of presence there and liberate ourselves from the worry of the world and be free that way. So there's many ways that men desire to be free, but I think it just comes back to presence again. This deep desire to be in the present moment, whether it's sitting there making love to your partner, or whether it's creating a video for your social media that you really deeply desire to do, whether it's in an ice bath, whether it's running a race, just being in that moment, fully experiencing what you're experiencing.
For me, it's being present, being out in nature, being out in the bush, chasing a good old
Mm,
waterfall or something like that. Just really just connecting with myself, connecting with nature. I feel so alive, so free, man. And yeah, that's for me, that's what it means to be alive.
yeah, yeah. It makes me think a lot about being vulnerable too. Just having vulnerability as a thing makes me feel alive. Um, because yeah, whether it's jumping off a waterfall or having a conversation with someone, being open and vulnerable is very stimulating for me. Um, yeah, didn't think about that till then.
It's important as well, especially as a man. In the society we live in, where it's
Hmm.
bottle up your emotions, don't talk about it. So for us to be vulnerable, to express how we truly feel, it's so powerful to be able to do that.
Hmm.
As we start to wrap up, where can the people find you? Where can they support you? You mentioned you have a program out at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, so probably by the time this goes live, it would have already started, and it's already sold out anyway. So, but that's called the King's Path, and that'll be another one coming up soon. It's a 12-week program. The best place for people to find me and reach out is just Instagram at Keagan.Bizzel. So Keagan.Bizzell. And that's where I spend most of my time. So yeah, if you like the podcast and you resonated with the message, send me something, and send me a DM, and I'd love to connect.
We have a closing tradition on the podcast where the previous guests ask the next guest a question. Now, the question is, what would you tell your 10-year-old self?
I love you. Just a full embracing I love you, and a big hug, and that I've got nothing to prove, and I am worthy.
Keegs, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting with me today. I've honestly, I've enjoyed it, man. We've shared so many gems, and I know the listeners are going to get so much value. So thank you.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for listening.
For all the listeners, if you got some value out of today's episode, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast, share it on your social media, and tag myself and Keegs. And look forward to your next episode. Cheers.
You.